Hi y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be working on Roxy's Journal of Stitchery Volume 4 Treasure Hunt, and this is going to be prompt 5. I'm still working on catching up. I'm almost there, but we're still working on it. I know my videos might be running a little long. In the future, once I've caught up, these videos, like working on this project, will be broken down across the 2 weeks. But right now I'm just kind of cramming it all in there so I can catch up, hopefully before the prompt is announced on Wednesday. So, just a refresher, this is my second project. We are working with a color story. Again, here's the threads I have to kind of represent my color story. And the next prompt is vintage embroidery. Well, I don't have any vintage embroidery to begin with, and I certainly don't really think that these are colors that would show up traditionally in a vintage embroidery. I'm not saying they can't, because you know everybody across time has loved color, and I'm sure somebody would pick something like this in the vintage era. But this is a pretty contemporary color palette, as I've discussed it before, and so I need to make an embroidery, I guess is where I'm getting at. I need to make an embroidery. And when we were going through the fabrics for my project, I came across this one that I had just kind of picked up on the fly at my mom's house, but when I really looked at it closely, I saw all kinds of embroidery opportunity in here. So I changed my original plan, which I'm hoping will show up sometime later, and decided to go with this fabric instead. If you can see here, I have traced out a square. It took me forever to figure out how big did I want the piece to be. I wanted to embroider the whole thing. There's just beautifulness everywhere on here. Look at this flower with the curls, all that scroll work in there. And then here was a great opportunity for some French knots. Here's a great blanket stitch opportunity. I wanted to do the whole thing, but I'm trying to stay in this size project. So it's kind of about the size of a postcard, I'd say. I don't know, I'm not going to measure it. I just felt like that was a good size. I moved it around to find an interesting spot. This is where I've landed. Fortunately, it was on this corner edge, so that worked out. And the first stitch, let me tell you this first. There is so much going on. There is so much going on in this project. I did not want to come here on camera and try to figure it out as I went. There will be some, I'm sure, on the fly work, but what I did is I created just a very rough sketch of the parts in here that I planned on stitching and kind of did some pre-planning. I'll tell you, one of these plans has already changed. Number 7 will no longer be a cast-on gradient. It's getting a different treatment, which means that number 6 will be getting a different treatment. But it was at least a place to start. Okay, guys, I had a little technical difficulties there with the cat, but we've worked it out, I think. So let me try and show you how to do this cable chain stitch. I'm going to rotate my fabric because I'm going to work from right to left. And I'm going to come up through my fabric. Then I'm going to bring my needle, my thread around the front of my needle. Go back, come forward a little bit, tighten up my thread so it creates a little knot there by the needle. Jump forward to the next chain link. Pull my thread through gently because I'm trying to cover that white. So then we do it again. Bring our thread around, come forward. Let me see if I can show you that. I've got my thread pulled around. I'm coming forward to create that link. Pull my thread tight, jump back to the next link, and gently pull my thread through to create the next link in the chain. We'll do another one, thread around from the front, come forward just a bite there to make that link go forward, come down to the next spot, make sure this is pretty tight, wrap my thread back under my needle here. I may have forgotten to give that instruction, y'all. Wrap your thread around the back of your needle and pull forward. And see how it's making this beautiful little chain link. Last one for this little strip of chain. Thread from the front, jump forward to finish the link. Keep your thread pulled tight. Come forward to the next part of the chain. Make sure your thread is under your needle to create that chain link. Pull my thread through gently, and I'm at the end of this one, and to end it, you're just going to go straight down and end it like you would any other chain stitch. So that's how it looks. I don't have a ton of places. I have a little bit left here and a little chain over here. So hopefully this will give you enough of an idea. I'm going to leave the big chains white so they pop out. So that was plan number 1. Let me finish off this thread real quick, and we will look at the next part that I'm going to work on, which is going to be some leaves. Oh my goodness. Oh, and I didn't mention that I am using all 6 strands of this DMC floss. So, because I wanted it to be thick enough to cover up the white as much as possible from the print on the fabric. Okay, let me get my scissors. The next project I wanted to look at, or the next part of this project I want to look at, are these solid orange leaves here. Now, I did say that most of my stitching was going to be in orange or in blue, but I'm going to do these in orange. I kind of want my background, like the leaves and just the background itself, to stay in that orange palette. So what I decided to do on this stitch for these leaves is the well, it's that kind of standard, it's a fishbone stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a center line there to be my guide, and I'm going to show you on this leaf, because really, again, if you look around, I have a bunch of half leaves and partial leaves, and this is kind of my most complete and full leaf. So you're going to start up here at your tip of your leaf, come down some distance, no specific distance, but we're going to come down a distance here. Make sure that pulled through, yes. And then we're going to start, I'm going to start over here on the right, move over along the edge of my leaf just a hair, pull it through. What is that string? Oh, it's one of my tie-off strings coming through here. Did I get it? No, I'll come back for it. And then bring my stitch down to just below that stitch right there. And then I'm going to do the same thing here on the left. Now once I have those 2 stitches in, I'm going to kind of change my approach, because I'm going to try and save some thread. So I'm going to move down along the edge of the leaf here just a little bit, come down, and I'm going to come just to the side of my stitch, do a little pinch over like this. So we're going to come down here to the edge again. There we go. Come down just to the opposite side of that center line. bite over to the across and then come back up to the edge of our leaf. And I'm just going to kind of keep following the shape of my leaf. That's kind of why I picked this stitch, because it felt like despite kind of the odd shapes of some of my leaves, I was still going to be able to find that center line to keep my reference going. I need to be careful over here on this edge. I'm not completely covering up my color, which is my intention, so move over just a hair. Come down to the other side of the line, bite over across from it, and come back to the edge of my leaf here. We're just going to do this all the way down. So, oh my goodness, you guys, you know how I was talking on the other video about how I was resisting the urge to participate in Corinne's Stitch the Seasons. So then I go and watch Susanna on her channel, and she is doing a fall project. In addition to their spring Australian season, I guess, she has also decided to do a Northern Hemisphere themed fall project. And so now I'm really chomping at the bit. I really want to do one. And I just, oh, come on. I just keep telling myself, Dion, you do not have the time. Do not put that kind of pressure on yourself. I don't know if I would record it. Maybe I'll do it and not record it. We'll see. All right, so you get the idea of this. This is not, it's a pretty common stitch. I think. I mean, it seemed pretty basic and common, a traditional leaf. Ooh, mine need a little work. But I will say, it's the first time I'm actually doing it, so I can only get better from here, right? Cross back over. I want to see, you know what, I should see what this is doing on the back of the fabric, because I decided to use this approach. I saw a lot of people who just go back out from the outside edges here, back to the middle, back to the middle. But I felt like, oh yeah, see, their stitches were going back and forth across the back. And since I'm just restarting over on the side where I was, I'm not getting that extra run of thread going across there. So it is, I think, being more mindful of how much thread I'm using is kind of my intention. I like to finish this leaf because I am going to put a feature on there, or I'm thinking of putting a feature. Oh no, look at that. I sewed through the other side of my fabric. And yes, in theory, I could cut my fabric down to not be hanging out all around my hoop. But as I'm sitting here talking about saving thread and trying to be efficient with my use of thread, I also do not want to be wasteful with the fabric. And if I were to cut this out and leave a border, look how much of this, I don't know, it just seems like I don't want to cut into it. I can't put it in my hoop yet if I cut this away, and I don't want to cut way out here because then I lose all of those flowers back in there behind it. So I'm just dealing with it for now. This is temporary. This is not a long-term problem. And so I'm just gonna deal with all that extra fabric out there for the moment and cut it away when I'm done with the project. It'll be fine. What I'm thinking of doing here is coming down the center line. See, I'm about to run out of leaf over there on the right hand side. So I'm gonna have to start getting, I guess, creative with my stitches, but really, because of the base I've already established here with my stitching, I imagine how this is gonna go. This is my theory at least, is that I'll just still be able to follow the pitch of the line and just do single, single shot stitches at that. I want it to come out right. Let's turn this around. I want it to come out right there. Oh, no. Right there. So that's the end of my right side. And now I just have to keep following the pattern here on the left side of the leaf at the right angle, or the same, close to the same angle I was going at. To finish this leaf. Now, because this is a stranded cotton, stranded cotton, I'm kind of getting some separation, that dreaded separation in between my strands. So there's a little sloppiness here, but I'm hoping maybe I can clean that up with the feature that I want to put down the center of the leaf. Just a few more stitches here, and we'll stop. I think that's a good place to stop right there, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I didn't bring I don't have any strung up, but I'm thinking of doing just a run of beads down the center here, either with this dark color, or I could do this lighter one. But I think the dark is really going to give me the contrast I want. That one's super shiny. This one's is darker but a little matte. So I'm gonna have to. This one's also got shine but matte to it. That one might be a good choice right there. I think it's going to be this one or the super shiny one, but probably I'm thinking this one. So I'm going to stop that leaf there for now. And the last part that I wanted to show you that I'm planning on doing is over here on this flower. My plan is to do bullion knots across these little smiles. Let's see if I can make one work. So just gonna wrap. Again, I'm using all 6 strands because I don't necessarily need it finer. I'm trying to cover up those white lines. So I feel like the more thread I can put across it, the better. I'm trying to kind of accommodate for the curve there and make sure that I get enough, but I don't want too much. I'm gonna take a couple of those twists off. Just slide off. Okay. How does that look? Okay. I think that this will work. Let's see. Pull it through. My needle is going to be testy. I tried to find the smallest eye. I cannot find Milner's needles. I don't know what I've been to all the craft stores. I've looked at all the sewing sections. Milner's needles, it's at least not written on the package. So I just went and found, oh yeah, it worked. You do a little finesse, get it kind of pushed down there. Y'all know how it is. Work your bullion. And then I'm gonna go right like this. Anchor it down. You know what? I'm gonna have to see. I was thinking I might anchor it down here as well so that it completely covered that white. But I think now maybe, I mean, I can always come back and anchor it down. I think I may do some more, I may do all of these and then, cause see how it's kind of looping up there? I mean, that could just be extra texture. I think I'm gonna do them all and see how I feel about them being loopy like that before I make a final decision. Because of course I can go back and do that anytime I want, so. All right, let's see how I fare on guessing my length on this one. I guess it's kind of always a gamble because each one of these is different. Massage. You gotta convince the thread to do what you want it to do. Each one of these loops is different in size and shape, so each one is just going to kind of be a guess at how many loops I need. Let's see. I'm still, the jury's still out on this. Just kind of depends on, like, I don't, let's see. We're just going to have to wait and see, aren't we? This one, I'm going to do one more. Then I think I'm going to have to replace my thread anyhow, so. Sorry. Can y'all see? I'm going to do one more here. I moved my camera to the left when I was working on the cherry project, but now that I'm not kind of locked down into a certain place like I was with the left-hand corner, I find that I'm kind of wanting to lean to the right and my camera is still to my left. So we'll see how, I may have to move my camera again. I'm still working on figuring out how I want all of that to be set up. Hold that thread out of the way. This one's kind of long. I'm going to see how big that one is. So let's see. I think I need more. I think I need more. I think that might be good. So let me pull my needle through. Convince my thread to cooperate. Yeah, I really wish I could find some of those needles because I love everything I see with these bullion knots and the cast on and all of those kind of, I don't know, they seem to come from the same family in my mind. And I'm in love with all of those stitches, but I don't have the right needle for it, that's for sure, because my eye gets in the way. Yeah, I think what I'm going to end up doing, just because I'm looking at these over here and I'm not loving what I see, I think I'm going to end up coming around here. Catching this bullion knot and putting a little stitch in so that it covers the white scallop shape there that I'm trying to get it to cover. Let me come over here and do the same for these. Can you see? I don't know. Hopefully. Just a little anchoring stitch. You don't even see it. It just blends into the coils of the bullion to hold that form. It would have been cute to have them coming up off the fabric, but they weren't really looking the way I wanted them to look. So I think this is what we're going to end up doing. And then I think what I'm going to do for these little ones here inside is, I think just for some shine, I'm going to put in a little bead there, a little blue bead. So these are the 3 parts of this project that I have ready for you right now. I'm going to turn off the camera, go finish doing these stitches, and then we will come back and talk about these larger flowers. They are going to be the next part, and these leaves back here, they're going to be the next part, because I'm doing this in layers. I'm trying to do all the parts that are going to be relatively flat first, because this flower is getting a very dimensional treatment. I think these 3 orange flowers are all getting dimensional treatment. I'm unsure yet what I'm going to do with these 3 lighter orange flowers. They're still kind of, my thoughts are still coming around for those. But for now, I'm going to turn off the camera. I'll go finish the stitches that I've shown you so far, and then we'll come back and look at the other ones. Okay, y'all, I'm back. I have finished stitching my orange flower leaves, I'm so sorry, filling in all my small chain with that cabled chain stitch, and doing my bullion knots here over on this flower. Interesting thing, on these leaves, I did the fishbone where you went into the middle, came back around your center stripe and went back up, and then came down along the side. And here on this leaf, I did a very traditional satin stitch approach. Like, see on the back, it's the same leaf as it is on the front. Used up a lot of thread, but it's a finer look. I'm not opposed to these. I just thought it was interesting that going with that traditional stitch created a finer look. Okay, it's time to move on to our next flowers. The first one I'm going to work on is this flower here, and I'm going to do kind of the expected thing, I suppose, but I just can't resist, and that's to go around this floral pattern with a fly stitch. I'm going to start here in the middle, and I'll go work those edge pieces. So you come up through your fabric, go across and down, come down to the end of your stitch, which for me is going to be where the next leaf bundle happens. Come down, make sure my thread is wrapped underneath my needle here, pull through. That's not right. That's not right. Sorry, folks. Okay, let's try again. I'm going to come up through my fabric, point A, let's say, come down over here to point B, down to the end of my leaf, make sure my thread is under the needle so it gets trapped by the stitch, pull through and anchor down. And when I anchor down, I'm going to bring that stem stitch all the way down to the next leaf bundle. All right, so I'm going to go up through A, down through B, bring it here to the base, to the base of my last stitch, right here, so that I have that connection. Oh, get in there. There we go. Oh, excruciating. There we go. And then come down to the next leaf bundle with that long connective stitch. Just going to do a couple more. This is a very common stitch, and y'all, this is not a tutorial. This is I am hardly qualified to do tutorials, and you can go online and find all kinds of great tutorials on this stitch. So down to my next bundle of leaves, and on the tips of these little fly stitch leaves, I am going to put a bead. Turn my canvas a little bit. There we go. We'll make that the last one, and then we'll move on to the next activity. All right. So the next thing, I have a list here because there's so much to do here. I knew I needed to keep a list. Okay, let's look at this flower over here. Over here, I would like to try to use a variety of fibers. I'm just going to paint this in with a satin stitch, but try to get texture through using DMC floss and then some of this acrylic yarn that I got from my mom's room. I'm not sure how the yarn's going to work, so I wanted to go ahead and give it a whirl. I'm going to do these 2 outside rows here in the periwinkle and then move into the blue violet here towards the center. And my plan is to do the yarn in the light orange and then come in with a DMC to kind of create a lower leveled stitch. And I'm going to do the whole petal. So I'm going to come up at the orange lines. I'm going to cover up everything, and I just want to see how this yarn is going to work in here. If it's going to give me trouble, if it's going to fray, if it's not going to fill very well. It seems like it's my needle, the eye of my needle is a good size. I hear a little popping in my fabric, but not anything that I think is too terrible, especially if I keep my cuts of fiber short enough. Oh, I went through the knot. Let's try again, move over just a little bit. So I think if I keep my fiber cut short enough, I won't have too much stress, and I'm just gonna, I think this is gonna work. I'm gonna fill this in with the thicker yarn and then come into those little spaces in between and do them with a DMC so it's a shallower stitch. Okay, I think you'll get the idea on that. Let's see what's going to be happening next. Okay, these orange, medium orange flowers around here. I have to be very careful about how I lay my colors so that, like, this flower right here is going to be the very royal blue. This flower is going to be kind of light colored. This flower is going to be a little light. I'm going to have darkness here, some darkness here. So I decided I have to be very careful here. And what I'm going to do is I am going to do pistol stitches across this light orange, these first 2 light orange stripes here. So let's just work on this one here. I'm going to come up, and I want my pistol stitches to almost come out to the end. So to do a pistol stitch, you're just going to stretch your thread out to where the distance you want it, do a couple wraps. I'm going to do 3 because I want them to be fairly sizable. French knot wraps, pull my string tight, and go ahead and draw through. And I'm going to get a little pistol stitch. So I'm just going to keep going around. And I'm going to leave a little space in there because I have another stitch that I want to bring up from the center in between these. So let me do another one of those. Bring my thread out to the distance I want. I'm going to do a 3 wrap. Oops. 1, 2, 3. A 3 wrap French knot. And then go ahead and complete the knot, and that will hold down the stitch. And I'm just going to go all the way around in this section doing that. Then here in this section, I'm going to fill this in with chain stitch using the periwinkle. Do I have a knot? Yes, okay. And I took, this is just a DMC thread. I'm using, oh wait, no, okay. Well, I changed my mind. That's all right. I'm going to come down through here and just do a very standard chain stitch. Let's see if I can get the right angle here. Come down. I'm going to follow my white line. Make sure that my thread is under my needle. Can y'all see this? I don't even know where I am on the screen anymore. Thread through the needle, come up, bring it down, and anchor it. And then just keep going around, all the way around, and I'm going to fill this center section in with rows of chain stitch. The last thing I'm going to talk to you guys about are the leaves here in the background, these with all the veins drawn in. I want to bead around that outline, and I was really struggling with what color I wanted to use because, like I said, I'm having to be very strategic about my color placements on this so that everything has an opportunity to stand out. And I went back to my deer project, and my little deer here is a gold tone, and I think it really, the warmness of the gold really works well with the color palette. So I was like, well, I don't have, you know, I do have more metallics. I have the silver charms on my kid's friendship bracelet for love, the prompt for love. And right now I'm not opposed to mixing metals, but I'm not 100% sure. I may even take those off and alcohol ink them. So I went back out to my beads and I pulled out some metallics, some options to outline this just to add a little more dimension. And I have this beautiful AB topaz color. I have these awesome coppers that I can put in here. And then I found these great beads that I think are going to come into play, but we'll talk more about them later. But you know, I kind of think I may fall to these very old, I mean, these are old, from my childhood old, in my mom's stash as I was growing up, and she was making those Christmas ornaments, those Christmas ornaments out of styrofoam with all the sequins and the pins. I love those. Anyhow, these are from that era, so we're talking 1970s, and they're small bugles. They're old, so they have an antique gold look, and I think I'm going to just line them up and follow the lines. Now you have to be careful when beading with bugles. They have sharp edges, and usually I would use my silk Nymo thread, but I don't have orange, I have white, and I thought I'd just try a strand of sewing cotton to see, you know, in case my thread was to show. I don't know. I always use the silk in my beadwork, so I don't know if this will cut the thread. I'm going to err on the side of caution. My plan is to first I'll string them all up, anchor them down, and then I'm going to come through them again and sew each one down, and then I'll probably come through one more time with one more long all the way through them to anchor them down, just so if it cuts one thread, it's got two more to get through. But you can kind of see here how it's going to look on there, and I think it's going to add just that little bit of interest. I like that the shape is different than just a standard seed bead, which I work with a lot, so I think that's going to be great. Okay, I'm going to stop the camera here. I'm going to go and do all of this work, and then we're going to come back and talk about these three flowers, because these three are going to be very dimensional. So I'm kind of doing all of the flat work first, and then I'll come in and add things that are going to be a little more dimensional, because I just don't want my needle to get hung up on everything. All right, I'll come back. I'll see you guys in a little bit. Bye. All right, y'all, I'm back. And while I was away, I finished the project. Here's how she came out. Isn't she beautiful? So what I did was I did do cable stitch here. I can't remember where we left off, but I did cable stitch here inside the loops, the centers of these flowers, outlined it with some beads, did some pistol stitch in there. Over here I did a satin stitch and just painted that flower in. Here's my completed fly stitch with some little beads put on the ends, and I went around the outline of that flower with a cable stitch, or a split stitch. I'm sorry, that was a split stitch. Some more of the, it's not satin, it's a fishbone stitch on the leaves here in the background. Over on this large flower, I just did daisy stitches all the way around and just followed the lines the artist had put in. Then we finally came around to my 3D flowers. This is using, okay, now it's called, in all of the videos I saw, it is called the Brazilian cast on. I don't know if that is something specific, because I use a straw on this, and I will show you some information about that here in a little bit. Here I just did some turkey work, and then outlined the inside with some French knots, put a French knot center with some beads. And then finally, for this flower, I used some of that eyelash yarn in the royal blue to, I couched it down with a piece of yarn here in the back. It wasn't sitting straight, so I was like, oh, how am I going to fix this? So I wish if I had it to do again, I would do the yarn first and then come in and sew the eyelash fiber to it. But I think it turned out okay. And then of course this beautiful stunning button, it's like kind of a showstopper there in the middle of that. So let's look at the project. All right. And so this little piece here is going to fit in, we'll say something like that. It's beautiful. It's really turning out well. I'm auditioning this pen on this piece of lace, seeing how I feel about it in the long run. You know, I told you I was going to rework this project. All right, so here it is in the project, and I really think it's coming along. The next prompt is trims, and we're going to have a conversation about that in the next video. So I hope you come back to join me and see where the project goes next. I'm super excited for the prompt to come out and see what it is. It's like Christmas for me. I just can't wait. So come back and join me for the next one. We'll be new prompt, prompt 7, and we'll be revisiting 1776. Bye guys. Thanks so much. Hope you have a great day.